This is question 225. If n is a positive integer, then which one of these guys satisfies this expression? And the expression is basically n times the one after it times the one after that. So let's think about it. When you're a positive integer, there's basically two scenarios. You have odd and you have even. So if the first one is odd, then the next one must be even. If you add one to it, it's even. Then if you add another one to that, then it becomes odd. The other possibility is you start off with even, then you get odd, even. Now what's the result? Odd number, like 3 times 4 times 5, that's always even. Even times odd times even, that's also always even. So no matter what, you always end up with an even number. Okay, so if it's always even, then that means even only, that's no good. Even only. Odd, well, it's never an odd. Divisible by 3, well, even numbers are not really divisible by 3, only sometimes they are, every other time. So really, divisible by 4, yes, when n is even. So in this case, we're not completely sure that everything is divisible by 4. We are completely sure that everything is divisible by 2. But at this point, we know enough to eliminate all A, B, C, and D that we just choose answer choice E as the final answer. So what's going on here? We basically have number properties, right? You have 3 consecutive numbers. Obviously, whichever one you start off with, you also end up with, and then they alternate odd and even. Well, to test it out, you should always just put in really small numbers. For example, if you start off with an odd number, let's say 3, 4, 5. Well, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. You get an even number. If you start off with even, like 2, 3, 4, well, 2 times 3 is 6. Times 4 is 24. That's also even. So then you start noticing a pattern. And these are the only two options. You only can start with odd or even. And they both end up with the same situation. You end up with an even number. And then you think, oh, well, just based on that information, is there anything I can eliminate? Well, it turns out you can eliminate A, B, and C. D you can also eliminate because you can't say for sure that it's divisible by 3, because you can clearly find an example where it's not, because 3 is an odd number. 4, you may or may not be sure about 4, but you already definitively eliminated all the other 4, so you know the answer is E. Now the reason why 4 is correct is, well, if n is divisible by an even number, meaning 2, and then that would also mean that n plus 2 is also divisible. So if you just kind of multiply those two together, that would basically effectively give you a 4, and you can effectively say it's divisible by 4, and that's why E works in this case. But the trick here is really just to identify what are the total possibilities. There are only 2 patterns, this one and this one. Once you know those patterns and they repeat for infinity, and you realize they actually result in the same number property in terms of products, then you can apply that to eliminating questions, eliminating answer choices, and arriving to your final answer. So again, as a recap, we basically looked at this question. We noticed it's basically 3 consecutive integers, identified the 2 possible types of patterns you can have, recognized that those 2 patterns resulted in the same result, and then applied that thought process to eliminating answer choices and arriving at choice E.